Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth Shaw and this channel is all about the narcissistic personality disorder to give you more understanding of those you might be dealing with in your life and different ways to recover from narcissistic abuse. This video is about the scapegoat child of a narcissistic parent. The narcissist scapegoat, what it is, what happens to you and ways to recover. The narcissist has two faces and everything and everyone to them is black and white. The admiration face, so those who shower them with attention and do as they want and as they please, they will see as good and they will idolise, which makes the people do more and more for the narcissist, believing the narcissist to be genuine. Yet as narcissistic people are stuck in their ways and incredibly hard to please, so even the golden child or the golden person can be devalued and discarded at times. The envy and the jealous face means that those who have their own mind, the child who goes against the narcissist, are often devalued throughout their lives. As the narcissist sees people who don't do as they say as bad people, those who they cannot trust, so they must do their best to scapegoat them, put them down and remain in control of them. At times, the narcissist can idolise the scapegoat when they view the scapegoat as pleasing the narcissist. The definition of a scapegoat child is someone who is assigned to take all the blame, to be the reason behind any family fallouts, anything that's not going how the narcissist wants it to go. It can happen to anyone within the family unit or even in a work environment when the boss will make one person to blame for any and all mistakes, even mistakes that haven't even happened. Within the dynamics of the family, friends or workplace, the narcissist will try their absolute best to gather an army of enablers, the flying monkeys, to join the narcissist games and cause more cognitive dissonance to the scapegoat. Scapegoats are people that usually are empathetic, justice seekers, strong-willed, emotionally reactive, self-blames and internalizes the blames and issues that are happening around them, and extremely protective of others. Enablers are people who get sucked into the narcissist's lies, and most people have been an enabler around a narcissist at some point without even realising it at the time. Either by not questioning the narcissist's actions, not standing up to the narcissist's poor treatment of others, often through fear, helping to hide the destruction the narcissist has caused or cleaning up after them, either because they believe the narcissist lies, which is a very, very easy thing to do when they are treating you so right and you have no knowledge or visual evidence of their bad behaviour at that point, or through fear. Once you do wake up to see, yet as the narcissist threatens in so many subtle and sometimes obvious ways, the enablers become trapped, often with those around them not understanding why the enablers or scapegoats feel so out of sorts. Or the enablers act as an apologist to make excuses for the narcissist's poor treatment of others, usually as the narcissist will have played the victim to the enablers. So again, the enablers believing the narcissist lies wants to help and defend the very person that's trying to destroy people. Flying monkeys is a term that comes from the Wizard of Oz, and it's a form of abuse by proxy. Flying monkeys are people who have usually been manipulated by the narcissist and the narcissist tactics into believing the narcissist lies and then unwittingly helping them by punishing the real victim, believing they are helping a genuine person when in reality they are causing further harm to the person who actually needs the help and support. Flying monkeys can be the narcissist's friends, family or work colleagues. They can also be the victim's friends, family or work colleagues that the narcissist has manipulated onto their side. They can also bring authorities onto their side to further abuse to the victim. Many a narcissist will drag a victim through the court system if they find a means to do so. The narcissist uses enablers, flying monkeys, to spread gossip, bully, intimidate and harass. Unfortunately, most enablers, flying monkeys, don't understand until they themselves end up on the wrong side of the narcissist. Most of them believe that they are actually doing the right thing when they're doing it. Even if something in their instincts feels a bit off, they still genuinely believe they're being helpful. Now, being a scapegoat and having enablers and flying monkeys coming at you can be extremely devastating for vulnerable young children, as well as adults. Not only are your minds living in inner conflict, turmoil, distress, but self-worth is also shattered with never-ending games and blame from the narcissist and the narcissist party of enablers. Young children can have their other parents, siblings and other family members turned against them. In friendship groups, you can become singled out and eventually left out. And at work, you can have all your colleagues turned against you, left to question your own self-worth and full of dread to speak out for who you truly are. This causes that cognitive dissonance within your mind, as the scapegoat can often feel clearly that they don't feel good around the narcissist, how others are attacking them, yet as they've usually done no wrong, it confuses their reality. With the narcissist seemingly treating all others so well, the scapegoat is usually left further confused, believing it to be them, as everyone is treating them so horribly whilst everyone else is treating all others so well. The scapegoat is usually the one who knows something isn't right, knows their own mind, will not conform and is happier with their own opinion. Why the narcissist feels a need to take them down. Fear they'll expose the narcissist, fear that they'll do better than the narcissist. Yet, because the scapegoat spirit is crushed so much, it's often hard for them to break free. Most child scapegoats do flee the family home early on if they can, not all. Some do become the black sheep of the family and the disobedient one that seems to go off the rails, trying to heal that inner pain and that inner shame that they themselves don't understand. They can become people pleasers through years of abuse and trying to just be liked, or go the opposite and become extremely independent on their own minds, as they've learned through the years that only themselves will look out for themselves and that they cannot trust others, even when others do mean well. Without healing, they are left questioning those around them. Some do become cold and distant, and it's purely from the mental torture that they received as a child. When one or both parents have narcissistic traits, the scapegoat usually has some form of instincts, yet not sure why or what. I've spoken to a few who, even though it was only emotionally abuse, often they remember thinking negative thoughts about abuse as they were a child and as they were growing up, without being able to connect together what was actually happening. They just knew something wasn't right, yet internalized it all. As a child, that's all you know, so they cannot understand themselves what's happening. A young child cannot see, understand or know. Most adults don't until they learn about NPD. Young children might sense they are not loved or feel invalidated in some way, yet often blame themselves as they get all the blame from all those around them, especially from the parents. As scapegoats are blamed for everything, they feel as though they are not good enough and cannot do anything correctly, and usually internalise the blame and look for what they did wrong, often end up believing that they are a bad person. In reality, you've just got to sit there and think, what makes me a bad person? And you'll most often find out nothing. It's other people that have put those thoughts and those opinions into your mind. The scapegoats get all the verbal abuse from that's not good enough to you're lazy, you'll never be be able to do that. Now, this can drive some scapegoats to be highly successful when older to prove people wrong. It can also drive them to invalidate themselves and not feel good enough, always looking for the next thing to try and feel good enough. It can lead them into abusive relationships and accepting learned behaviour from their parents as normal from others that they should never have accepted, as it's all they've ever known. When scapegoats speak the truth, they often get invalidated and ignored by the narcissists and their enablers. This can be soul-crushing, feeling like you have no one to turn to for support or for clarification of your own mind. The narcissist tries to isolate the scapegoat, often with mass smear campaigns and triangulation, turning loved ones, friends, family members, work colleagues against them, or causing so much doubt in the scapegoat's mind that the scapegoat might self-isolate, not knowing who to trust. A scapegoat's character is assassinated, it's annihilated, not only internally from the mental torture, from all the abuse, manipulative abuse that they're receiving from the narcissist, yet also externally, as the narcissist slanders the scapegoat to all those who will listen. Scapegoats are rarely to never rewarded for good behaviour, and they often get dismissed or told by the narcissist that they'll never achieve anything, or if they have achieved something, it's because of something the narcissist did for them. Accomplishments are most often ignored, belittled or dismissed, whilst any mistakes are heightened and used against them. We all make mistakes in life, it's a learning curve, but when you've got someone picking out all your flaws, all your faults and all your insecurities, we're all human, that is what makes us us, that is what makes us perfect. But when you've got someone attacking those and never praising you for they're all good qualities, but the things that you do well at, you begin to focus on the negatives. Narcissists have an infectious way of getting those around them to become extremely negative by simply focusing on the negatives in life. So start focusing on those positives to bring yourself back out of it if you're still in that stage. Scapegoats are sabotaged at every turn by the narcissist. Anything that the scapegoat is passionate about, they'll repeatedly get told that they're not smart enough, they're incapable, constantly being undermined and invalidated in order to kill off any drive or determination, so that the scapegoat begins to doubt their own abilities. The more you try to prove the narcissist wrong and you are capable, the more they'll put pressure on you to do things like household chores to keep you busy from achieving your own dreams and your own goals. But then they'll be accusing you of being lazy whilst they sit there doing nothing to sabotage your time so you cannot work on the things that you love, but also so that you're left questioning yourself about being lazy even though you're extremely busy. Narcissistic parents will triangulate siblings. If they have more than one child, they will make one the golden child and one the scapegoat child, even the invisible child. They will spin stories, tell half-truths, lie, and cause mayhem within the family unit. Triangulate, divide and conquer. If you escape the grasp, they will often try to manipulate you back in, especially if you do well for yourself. The pity plays and the guilt trips will come at full force for you to support your elderly parents. They often play on these they'll play on extremely rare times when they did actually do something for you, even if it was only to meet a need of their own. Same as bosses that find a scapegoat. If that scapegoat starts to stand up for themselves and look for new jobs, that boss will find ways to try and pull you back in so that you can't move on and you can't do better for yourself. You can move on and you can do better for yourself. Scapegoat children often grow to suffer from addictions of some form, suffering with CPTSD, OCD, anxiety and depression due to the psychological torture. Often forever chasing the highs to recover from their low self-worth caused by the narcissist's abuse. As these scars aren't visible, other people tend to dismiss them often ending up in that push-pull relationship as they want to please people yet cannot fully trust in others or even know how to be loved correctly. So recreating the only love that they've ever truly known, even though it hurts them. Most often misdiagnosed as borderline personality disorder if they seek help or support, when in reality they're just suffering from PTSD due to long-term emotional abuse. As the abuse is highly addictive, the dopamine released for the highs and the cortisol from the stress of the lows of the relationship, our bodies become extremely addicted, often then searching through life to fulfill that addiction in other ways. We learn to talk to ourselves negatively as that's all we've heard growing up. We try to control other areas in our lives, including our weight. So going on extreme diets to achieve rapid weight loss and then gain it all back is one example of things that scapegoats will do to themselves. OCD can develop in any area of your life to keep control over anything they can. Certainty is another human need, and when life is so full of uncertainty, which is also another human need, but it's finding that balance. The balance somewhere gets lost. So they crave to make things certain with OCD as they are so used to the uncertainty from others and things around them. And they also tend to try and recreate the uncertainty within their lives to keep the balance of what they've only ever known, not realising that it's actually then self-harming. As many scars left by narcissistic people are mostly invisible, as the scapegoat believes to be a burden by all the projection and blame shifting of the sins of the narcissist, often driven away to be pulled back in. People around them often don't truly understand what's happened to them. Most often, family, friends or work colleagues have been turned against them. If it's friendships, you can walk away, not easy if you've known them years, and create new friendships with positive people who raise you and don't sink you. If it's work, looking for new jobs, again, not always easy depending on the type of narcissist that you are dealing with, as some will go to the extreme of trying to ruin your chance of getting jobs elsewhere. They will threaten family. They will go all out to sabotage you moving on. Family is extremely tough, as most can be under the narcissist spell, and most often you've been labelled as the bad one. Trying to explain with those who haven't lived it can be extremely difficult. Those that have lived it will get those light bulb moments, or if they've recovered from it, they'll understand exactly what you've been through. Yet good people will try to understand you, yet as they haven't experienced it, aren't fully sure of what's actually happened to you. If there was only emotional abuse, it's hard to explain that your childhood was difficult, especially if the narcissist puts on a grand show onto the outside world, whilst in the home it's completely different. So you have people telling you just how amazing the narcissist is. All you can really do is let them know that your childhood wasn't the picture that everyone else saw. It was full of emotional abuse to the point that you never felt good enough within yourself. Also, some people are actually living it and they're not ready to admit to themselves what's happening, as the narcissist is doing that play so nicely to pull them back in. Trying to explain that your childhood was damaging to people. People don't always get it. Explaining that you were manipulated throughout your childhood to have scars that even you couldn't even see. Ask them to look up gaslighting and see if they understand more then. Or simply let them know. Explaining things like, throughout childhood, you were told that 2 + 2 = 10. Not in the mathematical way, yet through conflicting thoughts about who you were and things that you could and could not do, that you were not good enough, and not always in direct ways. which is a very confusing place to live. Or my childhood was like walking through a minefield, trying not to do anything to put me on the wrong side of my parent. And even when I did right, I was still wrong. It was a very confusing childhood. Another one is, I was taught from a very early age to blame myself for everything. When things went wrong, it was always my fault. When things went right, it was a fluke of luck. If someone liked me, praised me, or complimented me, I doubted it. I was always doubting myself and my abilities. If I achieved, it was always down to what someone else had done and never down to me. I learned to be unable to accept credit from myself or from those around me. If something went wrong, I knew it was my fault because I was told over and over and over by my parent just how stupid, useless and lazy I was and could never do anything right. So even when I was actually doing things, I felt lazy. Even when I was able to doing something, I didn't feel clever. Even when getting things right, I felt like I was doing something wrong. So I slowly learned the harsh words that were said to me and actions that were done by others towards me, that it must be true about me, because I learned that I was flawed, and it takes a whole lot of time and work to shift those negative voices back out. Also remember, those good people will do their best to listen and do their best to understand. You do not need to explain yourself to anybody and everybody. A good percentage of people are glad it's you, another percentage don't care, and then there's that percentage that understand and can relate and want to help you, and you want to help them. You don't need to explain yourself to those that aren't interested. Once we do open up to our own vulnerabilities and insecurities, accept them for ourselves, for who we are, and heal them, it is easier to open up to others. It's easier to explain to others. It's easier to connect with good people. Remember, you only have to tell people what you are comfortable with telling them. Things like, I had a difficult childhood behind closed doors and I have scars to heal. That friend wasn't really a true friend. I couldn't work out what was going off with that boss, so I just had to get out of that job and find a new one. If the narcissist is smearing your name, step out of the picture and leave them to it. The gossip fades so much faster when you're not reacting to any of it. I understand this is difficult because we want to defend ourselves when they are coming at you from all angles with so many soul-destroying games. It is our instincts to want to defend ourselves and put things right. The best defense with these kinds of people is simply not to play, not giving them any of your time or energy, focusing on you and your new life. It is hard when living in fear. The more you call the authorities if needed, the more you step away from their games, the easier it becomes. Trying to explain to authorities that don't seem to understand can be hard. Just stick with it. Just keep telling them you're in fear of your life and your safety. When you start going round in circles trying to explain, people get lost in it as well. So just explain that you're in fear of your life and safety and you want the authorities to help. Seeking help with those who haven't lived it. Most cannot pinpoint what's wrong or what you actually need help with. Good people will try. Finding those who understand how you feel and validate the things you've been through helps give you more clarity that you're not alone. Good people do care for you and how you feel is normal. When we are left with the negative talk that the narcissist has programmed in repeatedly, time and time again, because we are so used to being spoken to in that way, most often we begin to talk to ourselves in that way, bringing ourselves down. The negative talk is played on repeat within our minds, just like when that song gets stuck in your head. Often bringing ourselves down and sabotaging our own successes. As hurtful as the narcissist is and as damaging as they are, sometimes it's due to being the scapegoat or the victim of narcissistic abuse. And it becomes the only way we know of thinking, a survival instinct that kicked in as a young child and stayed throughout the excessive psychological abuse. The only real way to stop this going from family generation to generation is to stop it within you. Remember, it did not start with you. And if it's your partner, your parents, your boss, friend, that narcissist will not end with you. However, you can end that abusive, toxic, negative ways with you by simply cutting them out of your life or limiting them from your life and reprogramming your mind to how you want to think for you. Learning how to recreate your inner voice to how you'd like people to speak to you. Listen how you speak to other people. You're most likely a good, genuine, kind, caring person to end up in a narcissistic relationship. So listen how you speak to other people. That's how you need to start speaking to yourself. If you're a people pleaser, a hurt person who tries to help people, speaking to yourself how you choose to speak to others and lift them up, start lifting yourself up. Writing out any damaging negative thoughts someone else placed into your mind, who it was, why they did it, so you have that visual. Then writing the truth, as only you define you. You have the strength, you have the power, and you have the endurance within you. You are special and you are kind. You can and you will recover from this. Everyone has a greatness within them to push themselves through the hard times, to reach the good times. Everyone has the power and the abilities within themselves to heal and recover. When we use our greatest pains to push us, we can receive our greatest gains. Survivors of narcissistic abuse are all capable of empathy. They are all capable of self-reflection, and they are all capable of growth, all capable of new perspectives. We are all more than capable of stepping out of that darkness, stepping into the light, creating a new life for ourselves, creating a much happier place to live for ourselves, creating that self-love, creating our new dreams. We are all capable of achieving this. We are all capable of doing this. And we are all capable of becoming much happier, surrounding ourselves with positive people and living the dreams and living the lifestyle that we want to live for ourselves, whatever that may be. If you have any advice, please do add it into the comments for others, because we are all individuals and we do all listen to things and take things on board differently. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.